From Alachua, Florida, I'm Amrita-keli.
I'm Krishna Kishore.
And I'm Amrita. Welcome to Nectar Talks, from the heart of New Raman-Reti, the largest Hare Krishna community in North America.
And the home of thousands of Bhakti Yoga practitioners. In our ongoing series of live interviews, we explore a range of spiritual topics, introducing you to inspirational community members and guest speakers with diverse backgrounds and experience.
Like bees searching for nectar, we seek to extract pearls of wisdom from how they live their lives and the spiritual lessons they can impart to us and our listeners.
If you're seeking nectar, look no further. All right.
Let's get started.
Hare Krishna, everyone. I am so excited to be back with you all today. We have taken quite a substantial break from Nectar Talks over the last 2 months. We're going to take the opportunity to make a little announcement, actually, that we're teaming up with Krishna.com, and we're actually in the process of renovating a place where we have literally taken it down to the studs, even from the outside, to create an interview space where the guests and the interviewers can come together at the same table and interview in person, because we can do that now. And so it's very exciting. We'll be starting that within the next month or two, hopefully. But in the meantime, I thought I absolutely had to start interviewing again, because we just have so many beautiful people in our community to meet. One of these individuals that I have been in touch with over the last couple of months in regards to Nectar Talks is Murli Gopal Prabhu. Murli Gopal Prabhu is here with me today. Thank you so much for coming. He is a Renaissance man, I'm finding out, and as so many of you are. And we had talked about interviewing, and it turns out that just recently I found out he's moving to MD Anderson in Houston. So this is the perfect time to enter into his life and his story and some of the very profound insights he has into Krishna consciousness and how that can be seen through a personal lens of the things that interest us and bring vibrancy to our minds and to our lives. So in his particular case, he's a scientist, a physicist. He's maybe famous in the community as being one of our foremost dancers. And so I really want to focus on those two things a lot today, as well as a couple of other things that are very meaningful for Prabhu. And just in having a pre-interview conversation with him really inspired me, truly, to the point where I was like, oh, how can we recreate that conversation here today? Because it was so good. So we're not going to try. We're just going to have another one and have some fun. Thank you so much for tuning in. Okay, Murli Gopal Prabhu, thank you for coming to the show. How are you doing?
For having me. It's amazing. Thank you for inviting me. It's an honor to be here.
Thank you. It's our honor. So I'm not quite sure where to start. So I'm going to start with today. I know that you are getting ready to graduate from UF. This is not your first time at that rodeo in terms of graduation and achieving so much in academia and in research. You're getting ready to graduate from in medical physics. Are you getting your degree specifically in medical physics from UF?
I'm getting my master's in medical physics.
Okay. And then maybe we can talk in a few minutes about your previous degrees before even coming into Krishna consciousness, receiving a doctorate degree and everything. So for now, you've been at UF for 2.5 years, living here in Gainesville. And you've been a part of the Bhaktivedanta Institute, and now you've been accepted to a program at MD Anderson, which is like the foremost like cancer research hospital in the US, I know. But I think you're working with a brain doctor, is that right?
I'll be working with a medical physicist that studies the functional workings of the brain with in addiction.
Okay, yeah, that's so fascinating. And I know you were mentioning that there hasn't been specific research on what's going on in the brain while the Mahamantra is being chanted. Is that right?
Yeah. I mean, there have been many studies that have been done with the brain and in meditation, but all of them have been like mindfulness or some Catholic nuns or some Tibetan monks and like that. But it's like, well, where's the Mahamantra? It's like here's the most important mantra of this age, and nobody's looking at it. So it takes a devotee to do it. So I was like, okay, I'll do it. I want to do it. So to do that, I said I need to get the training, and here I go.
So cool. I'm relishing how in Krishna consciousness we are invited into a world of adventure. And I was asking you, okay, you're graduating the next day after your ceremonies, you're moving, and why is that? And you were telling me you were invited by the Bhaktivedanta Institute to go to Portugal because scientists are studying out-of-body experiences, and so you're going to be the representative there while that research is happening, right? And then you're going to swoop back in to Houston.
Yeah. Brahmatirtha Prabhu had some connections with these scientists that are interested in these outer body experiences, and he said like, hey, we need to be part of that conversation. We need to be like have some input there. So I said like, yeah, I'm definitely interested in like that, especially because there is so much within our philosophy that we can put in there. The whole idea of Sankhya just brings in the mind, intelligence, false ego, along with the body, the way that the prana works, the way that we understand the subtle body and its connection with the gross body. There's a lot in here that these scientists could benefit from, and they just don't know because they never look into the East and what it has to do. And generally, when they do, it's always towards this Shankara, that everything is one, and it's like, okay, well, besides that, what is there? So we have so much in our philosophy to actually give the scientists.
I want to get into a little bit of how that feels for you to be pursuing something that is so passionate and juicy for you, and there's such an intersection there for you to pursue. It seems almost limitless, and to hear how that makes you feel. Well, maybe you could tell us right now, how does that make you feel? And do you feel like everyone has that for themselves in some way or the other? Do you think that's part of our journey in Krishna consciousness, is to find our intersection?
I believe that one of the first things that I realized when I was doing my postdoc in physics was that, hey, you know what? Krishna is so adventurous, and when we associate with Krishna, our life becomes adventurous. To ask any devotee, and their life has been like a whirlwind of things happening like that, and it's because they've been connected to Krishna, and Krishna he likes fun. He's a fun God, and he's gonna make you have fun in all of this. So whether you're a nerd like me, and you're going to find, a lot of fun in nerdy things, or whether you're, a person that likes, I don't know, like, oh my God, chasing the rhinos, right? Chasing rhinos with the Swami.
Oh,
You can
good.
whatever type of thing you're into, Krishna is going to give it to you, in the best way in which you can connect to him. You just have to go out and try to glorify him in some way.
Wow. So cool. This is reminding me, you said Krishna's a fun God. He's an adventurous God. And when I spoke to you, you're from Bogota, right? You're from Bogota, Colombia?
Yeah.
Okay. So you grew up in a Catholic family, and I asked you, were you a theist? And you said, yes, I always had God in my life. I never had a problem with God. I never had issues with God, even with such a scientific mindset. So let's go back to that place when you're young, you're thinking about science, you have a relationship with God. How was that those formative foundational experiences for you? And you told me that your drive when you were younger that made you start pursuing science was that you wanted to build an effective time machine.
Yeah.
So tell us about all of this.
Well, I find out that most people that have difficulties with God and science are really people in the first world. Here in America, in Europe, and Canada, like that, and a lot of people, most people in South America, at least as I was growing up, they had no problem, like, yeah, the Catholic Church, blah blah blah, sure, like that, but people still believed in God, and you can be a scientist, and it wasn't like that big of a hang up for people, and I was like, yeah, like I would pray to God every single night before going to bed with my dad. That's how I grew up, I would constantly pray to him, to help me get better grades and all that stuff. Please let the bus come in at soon so that I can go to school on time. Blah blah blah. All that. He was always there for me. I would always be there. So it wasn't like a big thing. In fact, when I found the devotees, I was not turned off by them, like talking about God or anything like that, and I wasn't necessarily looking for something new, something different. I was looking for mystical powers. That's what I was looking for, and that's why, I mean, in some sense, building a time machine is like having a mystical power. So I was looking for mystical powers either in through mysticism or through science, and I wanted to do both of them because I understood that science has so much, like it's incredible the things that you can do. Like you're now able to have quote unquote invisibility cloaks, like they're working on them. They when I graduated from high school in 1997, they had already done the first teleportation with photons. So it was like, wow, this is amazing. Like all of these things are happening. I want to learn to do them, but I knew that it was limited in its scope, that there was something much bigger, much broader than what science could at this moment like look into. And I knew that mysticism would get me there. And so I was interested in these amazing things that I could learn from that. And I was looking, I was looking for something structured, I loved Harry Potter because it was like here's like mysticism, but in a here's grade 1, here's grade 2, here's grade 3, and at the end you're going to graduate and you're going to be a great wizard. So I wanted something like that, rather than, me trying out different things and something like that. So I was looking more for those mystical powers than than or than religion. But when Krishna consciousness was presented to me, I was like, well, this makes sense, and it's so comprehensive. And actually, I believe that by following it, I was becoming a better Catholic. I never saw myself like changing or like converting to another religion. I saw myself as like, wow, I'm a better Catholic now by being a devotee.
And at what point were you in your education when you met the devotees and you said when Krishna consciousness was presented to you? I'm wondering what caught you. Was it actually the heart? Was it the philosophy? Was it what you could perceive as a structure and a science? What was it that got you? The dancing?
Well, I had just come to the United States at that point, to start my master's and PhD in physics, and I was at Ohio University at that point. I had just become vegetarian because I had done so many things already with chakras and Reiki and so many other things like that it was like, yeah, it makes sense to be a vegetarian, but I couldn't be it while I was living at home with my parents. So I was land of the free, home of the brave. Now I can be a vegetarian. But then I didn't know what a vegetarian meal looked like balanced vegetarian meal looked like. And my parents were freaking out that you're going to get disease and all that. So I said, okay, I'm a scientist. I'm going to find out exactly what a balanced vegetarian meal looks like. And I started looking into it. And while I was doing that, a friend of mine invited me to go to a vegan cooking workshop that was being run at the university by some devotees. Balaram Chandra Prabhu and Chaitanya Prabhu and who else was there at that time? Krishna Kishore Prabhu. It was there were a couple of devotees there, and so I started going to these things, and I think that the philosophy was definitely like something that I liked very much, because it was combining two things that I had seen that I very much liked. One was it looked very much like it was like Buddhism, in the sense that you have a path. You can develop something rather than just believe, but it's like you can develop something. And second, it had this idea that love is important, love for God, which Jesus was talking all about love and everything. So it's like, wait, and it's talking that I can develop my love for God in stages, and like this path. And I like that. I like that idea. But what really caught me, what really pushed me to like, okay, I want to be a devotee like that, was really the devotees. It was the love of the devotees. It was that care. I would come home because the devotees were staying at my place at that time.
They were staying at your place?
Yeah, exactly.
You met them and then you were like, move in with me.
Well, it was more like, hey, the person that who we were staying with, the professor who we were staying with, that was actually a student that had been in a cooking workshop back in like the 80s when Radhanath Swami was doing the same thing that they were doing. This professor had moved a little bit further away from the university, and they couldn't, and it wasn't like so convenient for the students to go there, so they were looking for another place. And I was at that point renting a place near the university with another graduate vegetarian Colombian, and it was, for them, it was like, yeah, like great, graduate students, they're not crazy and like that, and they're vegetarians. And the other only option that they had was these crazy party girls. So they were, yeah, we're going with you.
Oh my gosh. So they lived with this professor that was a student. They lived with him.
They were going every week. They were doing what Radha Natswami would do. Like they were living in near Vrindavan, but every week they would go around every single day, going to a different university.
Okay, so they would stay with him while they were visiting.
Exactly.
Wow. And then you were gracious enough and interested enough and brave enough to invite them to come and be with you while they were in town.
Yeah, I mean, they were just like such amazing people, you know, like I was so happy to have them at home. And we would have the programs at my house, and
wow. So cool.
Yeah, it was so amazing. I loved when I would sleep, and they were there, I would always sleep with my door open because I didn't want them to ever get up and leave without me saying goodbye to them. When I would, you know, we would generally have the vegan cooking workshop on one day, and then the next day we would have leftovers, right? And for lunch, and I would pack it and go to the university. Sometimes I would forget it, and they would come and figure out where it was, you know, that I was, and bring it to me. You know, they would ask, hey, you know, where is this, like that, and they would bring it, you know, to the lab where I was. So it was like heart touching, you know. When I would come home, they would say like, hey, you know, take off your backpack. Do you want some chai? How was your day? You know, it was just like very, very personal. And I was like, yeah, they stole my heart like that.
Wow. At the end of the day, that is the recipe, isn't it? It's like real loving relationships is what we're really looking for.
Yeah.
Such a wonderful experience.
That is what I saw, like this is preaching.
Wow. As a scientist, that's so cool, isn't it? It's like it's such like a good thing to hear from someone with such an analytical mind like yourself, you know, that it was your heart that was won over. So something blew my mind when we were talking, and that was that you were doing this research. You had this desire to have mystical powers and to build a time machine. And you said that Krishna consciousness crushed your desires. And that was such a powerful word to use. And I'm thinking about how Krishna consciousness does do that for us. So I want you to sort of explain to us how that happened. What was that process like for you? What were those pivotal moments?
Well, as I said, I came here to the United States going like, okay, I want to become one of those scientists, you know, that works at Area 51, you know, top clearance, you know, working on alien technology or something like that. And no, I can't tell you what I'm doing because then I'd have to kill you, kind of thing. So I was still interested in that, and especially the time machine, right? So it was two people who really like crushed that idea. One was Hridayananda Das Goswami, and the other one was my spiritual master Radha Natswami. Hridayananda Das Goswami, he said like, well, you know, what is he said, I've never seen in the Vedas, anywhere in the Vedas, that anybody goes backward in time. I've seen them going forward, but never going backward. I was like, okay, that was one. And
so what did that do for you? Did it make you feel that there was a sense of futility in wanting to move backwards at all?
Yeah,
was there a desire for you to do
because
that?
the whole idea of the time machine is that it's a possibility. Like the scientists are viewing it, and they still have many things that they go like, well, it could be if this happens, but we don't know it, and we're, you know, many, you know, like decades or, you know, or or centuries away from actually ever knowing if this could be possible, at all. So this was my first going, like these ancient civilizations, they had knowledge. And if this is something that is like a dead end, I don't want to go through it, because I want to use my intelligence to do something better. So it was like, okay, that was a possibility like that. But it could be that he just hasn't seen it or something like that. But then it was really Radhanath Swami who completely crushed it all. When I told him, note the whole time period here. Like, I'm a new devotee. I have heard a little bit of the philosophy. I still have these desires to build a time machine. And I tell him, when he came to visit us and show us around, oh, this is what it was like when I was, doing the tours of the universities here, like that. And I told him, oh, Maharaj, look, I'm planning on making a time machine because, whatever great men do, common people follow, right? So if they see that I'm a devotee, then people will say oh, let me become a devotee. So, I can now look, hearing it back from myself, it's like, okay, you're a neophyte, definitely. But he was very gracious, and he just said one sentence that completely crushed it all, and it was, can you make me a time machine that will bring me to the present? And I immediately understood what he meant at that point. And it was, what is the use of making a time machine when we are already living in the past and in the future?
All the time.
So at that point, I was like, yeah, it makes no sense. And also, generally, with the devotees, the other thing, the mystical powers, it also got crushed because I learned that it's not like you attain your powers and they stay with you. No, it's like you can lose them. And then it's like, wait, you spent so long, you spent years, you spent lifetimes trying to get these powers, and you can lose them. That's so futile. So they crush these ideas for me.
I mean, when you first said that, can you build me a time machine that will bring me to the present? It blew my mind. I was like, that is so brilliant. That is such a brilliant response.
He is brilliant.
It is. It's just, I'm wondering, what was your reaction in the moment? Did it quiet you? Did you how did that feel for you?
I accepted it. I felt happy and accepted it, and was like, okay, I get it. I wasn't like fighting with it or anything like that. I was like, yeah, okay, I get it.
So these desires that you had, the desire for mystical powers, the desire to build this machine, they sort of propelled you forward. And I think it sounds like they really catalyzed this meeting with the devotees, essentially. And you could say it could have been the point where you were like, science is a dead end road in general, but it didn't at all. It sounds like, now you've come around now as a mature devotee years and years later, and there's this whole new it's like Murli Gopal 5.0, of exploring this realm with a lens of mature, practiced Krishna consciousness that is really solid in your life. And I can reflect personally on how kind Krishna is, that I've seen this in my own life, that things that were really, really interesting to me from a very young age, in my experience, for a time seemed maybe unimportant or less valuable when I got into Krishna consciousness. But what Krishna is showing me is that after a time of practice and after a time of solidifying myself a little bit, getting a little bit stable, he is opening up those interests in my heart in a safe and also more expressive way. And I see that happening with you. And I think it's very inspiring that we can use our gifts in beautiful change-making ways. So my question here is, what happened? You took a break, like a solid break, quote unquote, from academia, right? Did you get your doctorate's degree and then take a break? What did you decide? How did that happen?
Well, in my first meeting with Radhanath Swami, actually, we went to Columbus, because he had gone there. So everybody that was in Athens, Ohio, we went there, and we had like this little darshan with him, and I asked him, I can't remember exactly what I asked him, but his response was, "You have to get that degree. You have to get your PhD." And I had forgotten about that instruction. Notice how useless my mind really is when it comes to the important things. And in a Ratha Yatra, later on, somebody else reminded me of what he had said. I was like, oh yeah, that was important to keep in mind, that he said that I have to get the degree. And then 1 year before graduating, I asked him, like, what can I do? To serve you. I know that Lord Chaitanya, he said that he has so many fruits that he wants to give. Like, how can I? He said, you have to get that degree. That was the second time he told me. So okay. He had me like that. After my degree, I did a postdoc at Columbia University, and at that point, all my dreams were crushed. I was wondering, like, well, is this really taking me to Krishna or away from Krishna? And so much of my time is being spent like this, while instead of being at the temple and helping like that. Where am I really going? What am I really doing? I don't want to wake up one day and be like 70 years old, have like all of these accolades in my house, and say, where did time go, and not have Krishna at that point. So that's when I decided, let me become a brahmachari. And it was a very strong thing, because the devotees at the beginning, this was at Bhaktivedanta Ashram, where it is now the Bhakti Center. They were like, are you sure you want to do this? Can you go back to work after after being a brahmachari like that? And I said, most probably not. I'll have to start over again. So they were very, we don't know, think about this. But in the end, I did it. And for the first couple of years there, I was noticing that the drive that had me, as you were saying, like that those desires, for these things, these things that were pushing me forward, the time machine, the mystical powers, it was not there. So I knew what it was like to be living with something that you look forward to, something that inspires you, something that like that. And that was, I liked everything that I was doing. I was learning how to cook. I was learning how to play the mridanga. I was learning, the prayers. I was learning all of these things, but there was still something missing for me there. And then slowly, I started, finding ways to do it. Again, it was my spiritual master who said, like, hey, why don't you do something with bhakti and physics? I heard this devotee talking about, science and Krishna consciousness. Like, why don't you do something like that here, at the Bhakti Center?
So I feel like you've touched on such a powerful point, and that is the feeling of that something's missing in our Krishna consciousness. And this may be a quiet feeling that many devotees experience for a length of time in Krishna consciousness. I'm wondering, is it because we get the gift of being able to see how broad Krishna is, and that, like, if we feel that Krishna consciousness is this or looks this way, and I'm feeling like something's missing for me, it's not because Krishna consciousness isn't enough. It's because our vision of it isn't wide enough.
Totally. I mean, one of the things that I was trying to look, since I met the devotees and all that, was I wanted to meet devotee scientists, somebody who could guide me, somebody who could show me, how to, like that. But at that moment, I didn't find anybody, and especially like physics, because like I was seeing like, okay, if I was a lawyer, I knew how you could use that in Krishna service, right? If I was a manager, I know how I could use that. If I was a housewife, husband, whatever, I know how that could be used. But physics, like, how could you use physics for Krishna consciousness? At best it's like, okay, well, I'll give a donation, and Hare Krishna, Hare Ram, and on Sunday, and that's it, right? And when I went to Govardhan, there was a sannyasi there that he said, yeah, I'm sorry that that you still have to grow. You have grown a lot, in your as materially, but now you have to grow a lot spiritually, so that you can find this how the two match together. And so that's the time that it took me, like while I was a brahmachari. Generally, when one comes to Krishna consciousness, the first thing that one does is try to become a good devotee, in the most traditional way, right? Like, okay, let me learn how to say all the prayers. Let me like chant a good amount of rounds that I can keep steady. All put on the kurta and the dhoti, and just be a good devotee, and fit into a mold. But then it's spiritual life is all about variety. It's like you see devotees with their whole body tattooed, and you see devotees that are like like South Indian Brahmins, like that, all cohabiting the same place. And like so I was like, okay, there's variety here. and as you mature in your Krishna consciousness, you begin to see, okay, what is it that how is it that I can serve Krishna in my own way, in a way that I would feel happy and nourished.
How long did you spend at the Bhakti Center before sort of re-emerging into the scientific community?
10 years.
That's a huge chunk of time.
It's a huge chunk of time. It is. I mean, I said I went into the brahmacharya ashram with a mindset of let me just take as long as I need to. If I stay a brahmachari for forever, that's fine. If I see at some point that I need to make a change, I'll make a change, because I had also seen when devotees become like too rigid and not that their mindset has changed, but they don't want to they don't want to make that like that. So I had seen the trouble that can make for their lives, and also for the lives of others around them. So I said, as soon as I see that there's a change in my mind, I'll just continue. And I saw that especially when I was when I was teaching Sanskrit here at UF, at the University of Florida. Yeah.
What do you mean you saw that? You were saying?
I saw that I really liked academics.
Got it. Okay.
I noticed that
because you were living in the ashram at Krishna House. Is that what you're saying?
Mm-hmm.
And then we're teaching.
And I was teaching, and I want to have a career. That's a desire I have. I was honest with myself. I want to have a career. I want to be known. For what I know, what I can do. Okay, that's where I am in my spiritual path. And I also saw that when I was as a brahmachari, every time that I had free time, where would I go to? I would go to do research.
I love that point. That's like a clue into our
it was what was it that naturally came to me when I had free time. I would go and go over Coursera courses that had to do with mathematics and physics and all sorts of sciences. This is something that I want to do, that I like doing. So it's like I'm going to go that route.
Wow. So while you were at the Bhakti Center, to our listeners, by the time you see this video, there will be an end time, but we are trying to keep it like around an hour so that everyone can watch the whole thing in our busy schedules, because this is so good. There are a lot of things that I want to talk about, but I do want to hear about you had mentioned to me that during your time at the Bhakti Center, one of the things that developed was this karate and Krishna consciousness, and getting to teach it there. So what was tell me about that?
Well, I've become over the years more and more of an advocate for everything that you do, just add Krishna to it. Whatever your passions, whatever you like doing like that, just add Krishna to it. So one of those things had been karate, which I had studied when I was young, and I said, well, this is maybe a way in which I can bring more people to Krishna consciousness, because I'm not a yogi. I'm not like a yoga teacher, and it's like my first class that I took of yoga was when I was still in Colombia. And I was still looking for mystical powers. And after that first class, I was like, so when are we going to talk about the chakras? When are we going to talk about the mystical powers? And the teacher was like, no, we do here, for the mental health, to relax. And I was like, this is stupid. And I was like, at least for me, I don't need this to relax. I don't need this to mental health like that. I need is mystical powers. That's what I need. So this is not going to get me there.
Laser focused.
So I was not into like doing yoga. I was not into into the normal ways of preaching Krishna consciousness. I wanted to do it my way. So this was one avenue, and luckily enough, I had been so long at the Bhakti Center that they were just like, okay, well, try it out, like do it, and they were open enough to say like, try it out. So I incorporated at the very beginning of the class. I would have everyone read a little bit from the Ramayana, because it's Lord Ram, the spiritual warrior, the quintessential spiritual warrior. And then at the end of class, generally in martial arts, you do a silent meditation. Well, why am I going to do a silent meditation? I'm going to put in the Mahamantra. So I would do one round of Mahamantra with my students, and in between I would talk about like a little bit here and there of the philosophy, just like, okay, don't fight in the mode of passion. You want, even though this is fighting, you want to fight it with a clear mind. So you fight, in mode of goodness and things like that. So, it was going in. Yeah, so it lasted for a year or so. Yeah, but I'm not a businessman, so it was, I couldn't maintain like for long. Yeah.
So whatever it is that we want to pursue, add Krishna, and you have this element of using it somehow to share Krishna, even, which adds that other layer that we can't get anywhere else. Is that like that satisfaction of having shared something that has transformed our entire life?
Yeah, it's same thing has been for me with dance. It was like when I was touring Europe, I was doing talks at different places.
Was that the Polish festival tour, or what was that?
No, it was with the Bhaktivedanta Institute.
Okay.
I was just going throughout all of Europe, giving talks on science and Krishna consciousness.
Okay. How long did that last?
Well, I did it over 2 years, and some during the summer, over 2 years, and it was great. And through that, I was also trying to see and recruit scientists, because I was like, where are the scientists in our movement? There are a lot of scholars, but there are very few scientists. And I wanted to see, like, where are they, and can we get them to collaborate with us, to grow, so as I was giving the talks, I was also like trying to network with whoever was there and let them know about the Bhaktivedanta Institute. And so as I was going like that, I had heard about the Polish tour, and I asked, hey, can I take one week off so that I can go to the Polish tour, because I've heard it's really cool and everything, and they do a lot of dancing like that. So I just saw there what it's like performing arts in Krishna consciousness, and it was like amazing. I loved it. It was like, this is something that I also want to do. Like I felt at home doing it. It felt so right. Because when you start doing things that are not the norm in society, and not the norm in Krishna consciousness either. You're kind of okay, so I'm doing it. But suddenly when you find like all of these people and they're doing, like what you're doing in a big scale like that, you suddenly feel at home. And that is also like something that is all like, it's wonderful when it's not just you doing it, but when you can give Krishna this, as a group, as an offering as a group. It's just like so much more meaningful, so much more powerful. So, and I was like, wow, like this I want to do. And also, during the first tour that I did, I got to be in Radhadesh during a festival there, and it just happened to be that one of the organizers there was a dancer. So in all the activities that they had, because they had simultaneous activities going on at all hours of the day, there was always one that had dancing in it, and I just noticed for myself that I was always picking the one with dances. And I was like, and after taking a couple of these dance classes, I was like, why haven't I done this before? I love dancing. I want to become a better dancer. I just saw like people like Gauravani, like Janavi, like they are trained musicians. They besides the fact that they're just like naturally gifted, they also developed what they had, and they offered it to Krishna. I was like, I should do the same with dancing. Just become the best dancer I can be for Krishna. And so that when I came back to the United States, the first thing I did was like, what does it look like, to a professional dancer? What is their curriculum like? And I saw ballet is the basis of it, and then from there everything stems up. Okay, let me start learning ballet. So
I'm sitting here marinating in your personal drive and that kind of focus that you have. Do you feel like this is what I'm gleaning from what you're talking about, besides the specific details of your story, which are so beautiful? One thing that you said to me previously, which I found, which is what you're describing here, which I found really poignant, is that dancing is a really underdeveloped aspect of our Harinam Sankirtan. And I again, it was like, that is because Lord Chaitanya is instructing us to chant and dance for Krishna. That's a part of our mission here. That's what Srila Prabhupada told us to do. So, I think that that's something that we can all think about and act on. Another thing is, and be happy because dance has to make us happy. It's like, you can't not be happy while you're dancing like that, right? It's like therapy for the body and the mind and the spirit. So expressive. But anyways, how important is goal making to you in your life? Making small goals, making large goals. Do you feel like this is like an imperative for us that want to develop, we have this, if we want to give this one life to Krishna, how important do you find goal making is for you?
I find that personally for myself is important. Like, I know that some devotees, they like to, okay, and just in general, some people, they like, okay, let me just have a simple, nice life, let me do my duty like that, and I'm happy with that, and that's okay. That's okay too. Personally, I can't live like that. I need the excitement. I need that drive. I need that dream. I need I want to have something to look forward to. Something that I can apply myself to. And so I like to have these goals. When I told you that, the first time when I got into the ashram, that I sort of had like, okay, so the goal is Krishna. Yes, I understand, and I'm going for it, and that's why I'm being a brahmachari right now. Like that. But there was that something missing there. Like, okay, so I understand that Krishna's there, but I need that personal drive, to to ignite me, to make me get up every morning and say like, wow, okay, let's do this. I need that excitement in my life, and these personal goals help me to go towards that, to give the best of myself.
Thank you. So cool. It's just also, it's just pretty far out that, performative arts and the sciences are both there as links to Krishna that seem so distant from each other, in one seeker.
They can be, although, I've seen, how sometimes they like scientists will collaborate with artists and like that to create amazing, beautiful things. Like Gödel, he made amazing, beautiful paintings based on his talks with scientists and mathematicians. And for example, like the impossible ladders that go like always go up. And you go like, oh, how does that happen? And when this ball in which he has his reflection, but the reflection is on the bowl, so it's like distorted in the way like that. The perspective like that, he got it, by talking with these with these scientists. So it informs, it makes, like this knowledge about, from science gives inspiration to the artist, and the artist brings sort of like like what would seem dry knowledge, into something beautiful that everyone can appreciate. When a scientist looks at for example, at a formula that describes the beginning of the universe, or how a black hole works, they go like, wow, that is amazing, and they can see beauty. But generally people can't see it. But when artists come in and they talk to scientists like that, they can bring out that beauty that they're seeing into the beauty that everyone can see. And the great thing about Krishna consciousness is that when you open people's hearts in this way, then the philosophy can enter. That is what I saw that they were doing at the Polish tour. With the arts, they were opening people's hearts, so that then bring in the Bhagavad Gita, bring in the philosophy, and then they're open. They're absolutely open to hearing, about Krishna.
Thank you. So cool. There are a couple of things that are on my mind to talk about as we close. One is the Krishna Quark, which is the book that you're publishing, right?
Yes, Krishna and the Quark. It's coming hopefully this year. It's being published by the BBT North Europe.
Can you give us a little peek into what that is?
Sure. It's a book where I just try to sort of like make sense of, from the point of view of a scientist, of some of the things that I have found in Krishna consciousness, specifically in the realm of cosmology, meaning like the beginning of the universe, the nature of space and time, and particle physics. But what do the Vedas have to say about some of these things? And so I weave in philosophy, history, and just personal anecdotes a little bit in there, to just like give a general reader an introduction to either if you're a scientist of Krishna consciousness, if you're a devotee of science, or if you're a layman, of both.
Wow. Okay, so that's something you've been working on that will hopefully come out next year that we can look for.
Hopefully this year. Keep fingers crossed.
Okay, this year. Okay, our prayers are with you.
Thank you.
May the force be with you. And something else that you had mentioned was your appreciation of the fifth canto, and specifically something that you called vertical dimension. And I have no idea what that means, but I'm interested.
Well, and over these years, one of the big things for us at the Bhaktivedanta Institute have been like, okay, Prabhupada said, try to figure out, this fifth canto so that you can present it, right? He asked all of his devotees with PhDs.
Mm.
So some of the ideas that have been floating around, towards that have been very interesting. And it's a different way to look at the universe. Especially the universe, the Vedic universe looks very different from what we see here. And trying to make sense of that universe with the one that we see is one of the things that we've been trying to do. this vertical dimension is, the one of the problems that some of the devotees had when they left the movement, when the fifth canto came out. And it was the fact that you have something that is called Bhumandala, which is where we are at, right? But and it says that above that, there are these realms, and then there is the sun, then there is the moon, then there are the stars, then there is I think it's Venus or Mercury, one of the two, then it's the other one, then it's Mars, and it goes like that. And because of that, they said, oh, so the sun is closer than the moon. And then everybody flipped out saying, like, hold on, how can the sun be closer than the moon? We know from astronomy that that's not the case, blah, blah. So one of the ways that we've been thinking about it, again, this is not like, this is the way, this is the light. No, this is one of the ways that we've been thinking about it, has been, well, what if this vertical dimension, this that puts the sun before the moon and like that, it's actually telling us about not physical space, but, for example, some other space like guna, the level of in the guna, such that the highest planetary system, which is Brahmaloka, has the highest amount of sattva, of goodness. Here we're, like in, mostly rajas, and then as you go down into the lower planetary systems, you get more into the tamas, into the ignorance, right? This makes sense to me. And also when you start thinking about the fact that, when people do astral projection, right? Where do they go? They go first, they to the lower astral. Well, in the Bhagavatam, in the levels, that would be like where the ghosts and witches and all of these are, which is the very first one, right? Above the earthly planetary system, the Bhumandala. And then there goes all of the Upadevas, like the Gandharvas, the Vidyadharas, the Apsaras, and all these, which are quote unquote like the angels or divine beings, or the upper astral, when people do these astral projections. But generally, people don't get to the sun level, because then now you're entering into the devas, into the realm of the devas. So now you have to have actual credentials to be able to go there, and anywhere higher. Also, like the devas, they can't go where the sages are, Janaloka, Tapaloka, and Harloka, and so you have to have those credentials. And it's like, this starts making sense. And then furthermore, when you start looking at this universe, not as the physical universe necessarily like that, but as a map of the universe, basically the universe mapped into your body, microcosm and macrocosm, looking at the universe not as this stale ball of gas that is with things floating around, but actually as the Virat Rupa. It is the body of the universal form that has its own mind, it has its own intelligence, it has its own false ego. It's the Virat Rupa. Then it's like, wow, it's a living system. We're talking about a living system. And when these yogis and tantrics, they're doing these meditations, they're connecting their microcosm to the macrocosm. They're connecting their bodies to the universal body. And what they're giving us in the Bhagavatam is actually a mapping of the universe onto our bodies, so that we can explore with our consciousness in our bodies to have visions of these other planets. So it's like, oh,
this is where the poet comes out of the scientist, or like where science becomes so poetic that it's just like heart melting. It's really cool. For someone with zero background in science, it's so refreshing to feel really exhilarated by hearing someone talk about, our Vedic cosmology and how how if things seem like they can't be, what's the word? They just can't be confirmed, like Vedic cosmology and, modern scientific cosmology. Our perspective is what we can investigate, right? And what you're saying is it's reminding us of how underneath this very practical experience of Krishna consciousness that we've been given, that anyone can practice and reach perfection through, there is this unlimited mystical reality that is just unlimitedly beautiful and captivating.
One of the things that I wanted to do by looking at these mystical powers that from the beginning, I wanted to have contact with these higher realms, because they seem so beautiful, they seem so interesting, and now I'm getting to do that, by researching about them, but now in a Krishna conscious way.
Well, I want to hear more about that. So I will be asking you some more questions about that. And I know, I feel like, I see a very prolific future for you in terms of how you share what you find with us and with the world at large. Before we close, do you want to tell us anything about violin?
Well, this is something that I wanted to do. When I was a kid, I loved the violin, and I started taking classes. When I was in undergrad, and again I took some classes like that. I've been able to use it in kirtan afterwards. I haven't done it so much lately because of I've been focusing on dancing. So there's only so much time that you have in the day, but it's something that just brought me like so much joy. It's something that like dance, I can spend hours doing. Just like lose myself in it, and it's beautiful when you can use something like that, especially like I said, like in a kirtan. And you've seen Jahnavi, what she does with the violin, and even though it's not like one of the quote unquote traditional instruments, of India like that, I've just found that it just gives so much beauty and grace in wherever it finds wherever you put it. So I still like keep it, and I try to bring it out from time to time, because again, I just want to give everything that I love, that I want to do, to Krishna.
Okay, I have to encourage you here to be a mentor if you're not, because I think that this, yeah, I feel like the people who are listening would definitely agree with me. I think that such valuable lessons here to go by, and a very practical way to pursue joy in Krishna consciousness. And I feel it from you so strongly that when we're really doing that, we can really sink our teeth into something, or a few things that are deeply meaningful to us, that we can help other people. And not in a way that feels draining, but in a way that feels life-giving to us. And I think that we can all agree that that's what Srila Prabhupada wants for us, is to feel completely energized.
We just have to explore, like Krishna doesn't tell us like, I want you to do this. He goes like, okay, what do you want to do? It's like, okay, you've surrendered to me. Okay, good. Now, what do you want to do? And that's how we develop our own, personality. That personal aspect, that personal touch that we give Krishna. That is how we do it. It's like Krishna goes like, okay, what is it? And then he facilitates. And the best way to go about it is just like trying things out, going for things. Like, oh, that sounds interesting. Okay, let me do it, and then I'll find a way to connect it to Krishna. A devotee will always find a way to connect something to Krishna.
Thank you, Prabhuji. It's been my absolute pleasure and an honor to sit with you today. Is there anything else that you want to leave us with?
Probably just don't be afraid of doing it, or of some stigma and everything like that. Do be mindful of others. Yes, because you don't want to step on people's toes and like that. But just do it. When I was going through Europe and like that, I was seeing like all of these people that love to see me dancing, and it was like, oh yeah. And then I would find out like, oh, they're actually trained dancers, especially ladies, more than guys, because guys generally don't dance. But generally, and I would say like, well, why am I not seeing you dance like this? And they would say, oh, because people would see like wouldn't take it properly, like they felt very self-conscious. They felt that they would be shunned, that's not what a lady's supposed to do and like that. But it's like, this is your way of expressing to Krishna. It's like, yeah, obviously like do it graceful, do it beautiful, and not vulgar and everything like that. But offer what you have like this to Krishna. So whatever it is, don't stop it, because of self-imposed limitations.
Thank you. Thank you, Murli Gopal Prabhu. Such a joy to be here with you.
Thank you so much for inviting me. I mean, it's nice to be able to be here with you.
On behalf of all of you, of our audience, thank you so much for listening in, and we give you our heartfelt prayers for your journey onward, moving to Houston. We're so sorry to have you leaving our physical presence, but we're all connected, and I know that we'll stay in touch and we'll hear from you. And I know you will be hearing from you and about you. So thank you for being you in our movement.
Thank you for having me.
Okay, Hare Krishna. I'm going to continue interviewing up until we get our new Nectar Talks space running. So keep a lookout. You will see something after this interview, hopefully within another 2 to 3 weeks. So thank you all for your patience and for your dedication to Nectar Talks. Hare Krishna.